The 2 feet of the woman suddenly moved away from the ground. Her family immediately called 120, but the doctor not only couldn't get her back to the ground, but couldn't even move her position. Half an hour later, she was a few centimeters taller. The doctor couldn't find a way at the last minute, so he first drew a big tube of blood for examination. From then on, the female via, regardless of size, drinking water, shaving, eating, or even sleeping, can only be done in the air. A week later, an expert came to the house. He measured the distance from via to the ground. According to this speed, in less than 3 months, it will rise to a height of 10,000 meters. At that time, she needed to wear a spacesuit and an oxygen mask. 3 months later, she would cross the Kármán line and enter outer space directly. In the end, she died in that place. What's more terrible is that the expert had no way to stop her from rising. His only suggestion was to make her as comfortable as possible. At this time, Via's head had reached the ceiling. Her husband didn't say a word and smashed the floor on the 2nd floor just to make his wife feel better. Soon, she rose to her daughter's room. Her daughter proposed to apply for a leave to go home with her mother. Unexpectedly, her mother was very angry and scolded her. At night, her sister put on a beautiful dress for her and let her spend a wonderful night with her husband. But when her daughter came home, she found that her mother's foot was nailed to a rope. It turned out that her father didn't want her to leave. Her daughter was going to cut the rope, but her father stopped her. Until her mother's foot was pulled for a long time, she asked her daughter to cut the rope. At the same time, she gave up her efforts. Just a few days later, her mother gave birth to a baby. Her daughter and her husband could only see her as a lifesaver and gave her food, clothes, cell phone, and oxygen bottles. They put all the items in huge backpacks, hoping to slow her down. In the end, her daughter left her an MP3 player. Her mother was moved to tears when she saw it. When she left, her husband hugged her tightly. He didn't want to let go for a long time because he knew this was the last time he would see his wife. The higher Via rose, the stronger the sunlight shone. At the same time, the oxygen in the air was getting thinner and thinner, and even the temperature was getting colder and colder, so that the woman's face was swollen, so she could only wear more clothes. The next day, she found that there was nothing to eat, so she called home directly. But she didn't ask her daughter for food, but worried about whether her daughter was serious in class and whether she could take care of herself at home. Although they care about each other very much, they still didn't express it in words, but her daughter really couldn't control her emotions, so she hung up on the phone in the middle. Although her mother was worried about the phone, she still had to tell herself to be strong and take out the MP3 player to listen to music and relax. But she didn't pay attention and dropped the MP3 player to the ground. This made her mother, who had suppressed her for too long, explode completely. At that moment, she shouted out her heart and lungs and sent the bitterness of her heart to her. At that time, a group of birds flew to her, and these birds kept hovering around her. This made her innocent smile. Even she was affected by the emotions of the birds, and couldn't stop it. But after a while, it started to rain in the sky. Because she couldn't move, she was drenched in the rain. Her husband looked at the sky and worried about her. Her daughter prayed for her in her heart. After the heavy rain, she had passed the cloud layer. At this time, she needed oxygen to breathe. In order to let go of the worry in her heart, she called her family one last time. In the phone, she encouraged her daughter to study hard and said that her daughter was her greatest pride. At the same time, she also hoped that her daughter and her father's relationship could be restored. Then she threw her backpack home and expressed her final determination. At this time, the sun rose, and she rose faster and faster. After saying a sentence, she stayed in space forever. Her family saw the phone that fell down and understood her current situation. Her daughter and her father sat on the floor of the house and started to hug each other. The next day, the ceiling was completely repaired. Her daughter also took the initiative to make breakfast for her father. Although the breakfast was a bit sloppy, she still